Just after midnight, the quiet of Balbriggan, a coastal town in Ireland, was shattered by a frantic phone call. Colin Wheel, voice eerily calm, told emergency services that his wife, Mary, had fallen down the stairs and wasn't breathing. Paramedics arrived swiftly, expecting chaos, confusion, despair. What they found was chillingly still. At the bottom of the staircase lay Mary, 27, her body partially hidden under a duvet. The scene was too orderly, too precise. Colin hovered nearby, his face blank, his voice measured. He claimed he had tried to help her, but something about him didn't fit the image of a husband discovering his wife lifeless at home. Mary's body was cold, far too cold for someone who had just tumbled down the stairs. Her injuries were inconsistent with the fall Colin described, and the man claiming to be in grief seemed disturbingly calm. The first responders felt it immediately. Something was profoundly wrong as the ambulance carried Mary away. The storm had only just begun. Behind the closed doors of the Wheel home, a plan had been executed with deadly precision, a plan that had been months, if not years, in the making. Over the following months, their connection deepened in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Mary found in Colin a confidant, someone who listened without judgment and whose presence brought a comforting steadiness to her often chaotic life. He seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, dreams, and experiences, and this attentiveness made Mary feel both valued and understood. Friends who observed their interactions noted that Mary seemed happier, more engaged, and more animated when Colin was near, a spark in her eyes that had not always been present since her father's passing. Colin, too, appeared drawn to Mary's warmth and resilience. He admired her ability to balance responsibilities with kindness, and the way she navigated life with humor, despite past hardships, seemed to captivate him. Their conversations often stretched long into the evening, ranging from shared interests in music and literature to more serious discussions about ambitions, family, and the future. In these moments, a quiet trust began to form, a foundation that Mary believed could withstand life's inevitable challenges. As weeks turned into months, small gestures of care and consideration gradually shifted their bond from friendship to something more intimate. It was subtle at first, a reassuring hand on her shoulder, a thoughtful message, an unspoken understanding of moods and needs. The intimacy grew naturally, a careful weaving together of two lives shaped by personal loss and the yearning for connection. For Mary, Colin seemed to embody the promise of stability and companionship, a counterbalance to the turbulence of her early adult years. To her family, he appeared to be the kind of man who could offer not only love, but also a sense of security, a figure who seemed genuinely worthy of her affection. Months passed before their friendship turned to romance. When it did, it developed with caution and patience, as if both understood that what they were building was fragile and significant. Mary's family welcomed the connection warmly. Her brothers, protective yet observant, eventually saw in Colin someone who respected and cared for their sister. Her mother, trusting and hopeful, admired his polite manners and devotion. For Mary, it seemed like a dream realized, a partner who embodied both stability and ambition, a love that promised safety, warmth, and a future filled with possibility. Yet beneath the surface of this perfect facade, subtle tensions and character traits would later reveal the cracks in the life she thought she knew. Despite appearances, Mary and Colin's love story was far from straightforward. Nearly 2 years into their relationship, Colin abruptly ended things without offering a single explanation. The shock left Mary reeling. She questioned herself, her choices, and even the nature of love itself. Friends noticed her withdrawal. She declined invitations, spent long hours alone, and seemed lost in the fog of uncertainty. The vibrant, lively young woman who had charmed everyone with her warmth was now subdued, cautious, and quietly heartbroken. But fate has a way of circling back. 6 months later, Mary and Colin unexpectedly crossed paths again. The reunion was unspoken yet electric, a quiet acknowledgement that the bond they shared had never fully disappeared. This time, they approached their relationship with a deliberate seriousness, each aware of what was at stake. Conversations turned to the future, not in vague hopes, but in concrete plans. Mary sought stability, finding it in a secretarial role at a law firm, where her efficiency, focus, and dedication quickly made her stand out. Colin's career remained steady, and together, they seemed to rebuild a foundation that had once crumbled. By 1997, Colin purchased a house from his grandfather, and they moved in together. Their life appeared ordinary, stable, even promising, a picture of domestic bliss. But the surface was deceptive. In 1998, Colin was involved in a tragic car accident that claimed the life of an elderly woman. He avoided serious criminal charges, a fact that perplexed many, yet Mary stood firmly by him, insisting that one incident did not define the man she loved. Eventually, Colin orchestrated a meticulously planned proposal during a vacation in the Canary Islands. Everything was calculated, the setting, the timing, the ring reflecting his methodical, controlling nature. They married on September 9, 2000, in what should have been a day of joy and celebration. The ceremony was flawless, elegant, and admired by all who attended. Yet Mary's tears at the altar betrayed a deep inner turmoil. The absence of her father weighed heavily, a quiet ache in her heart, but there was more, a shadow of unease she could not articulate. A subtle tension in Colin's demeanor that hinted at the storm silently gathering on the horizon. Back at home, subtle but troubling changes had begun to emerge in Mary. The vibrant woman who had once radiated confidence and warmth became increasingly withdrawn. She dressed conservatively, shying away from the expressive fashion choices she had once loved. Social interactions dwindled. Friends noticed her absence, and family members observed a quiet, unsettling shift in her demeanor. Her world seemed to shrink, revolving almost entirely around Colin's presence. The warmth and light that had defined Mary were slowly dimming under the weight of an invisible tension. Then, in the early hours of March 1, 2001, that tension erupted into tragedy. At exactly 12:16 a.m., emergency services received a call from Colin. His voice was calm, measured, almost eerily detached. He claimed Mary had fallen down the stairs and was unresponsive. Instructions for CPR were given, and paramedics rushed to the scene, expecting a chaotic emergency, but what they found was chilling in its stillness. Mary's body lay at the bottom of the staircase, unnervingly neat. Her limbs were straight, positioned as if arranged deliberately, and a duvet had been carefully draped over her. The precision of it made administering CPR nearly impossible. Adding to the unease, her body was already cold, a clear sign that she had died well before the emergency call. Colin stood nearby, repeatedly asking, in a calm, almost robotic tone, "Is she alive?" His detachment, in stark contrast to the gravity of the scene, immediately unsettled the paramedics. Despite the paramedics' urgent efforts, Mary was pronounced dead at the scene and later at the hospital. Colin followed the ambulance, displaying no visible grief. His calmness did not go unnoticed. A nurse soon observed deep, fresh scratches on his torso, defensive injuries that were inconsistent with the story of an accidental fall. Colin hastily attempted to cover them, claiming they resulted from CPR, but his explanation rang hollow. Investigators were immediately suspicious. Every detail, the immaculate positioning of Mary's body, the timing of the call, Colin's unnatural composure pointed toward a horrifying possibility. The puzzle pieces were aligning into a picture more sinister than anyone could have imagined. As investigators probed deeper into the circumstances surrounding Mary's death, the full extent of Colin's deception began to surface. From the very beginning, his unnerving calmness had set off alarm bells. Paramedics, hospital staff, and even Mary's own family all sensed that something was terribly wrong. When the crime scene was scrutinized, glaring inconsistencies immediately came to light. Mary's injuries did not correspond with a simple fall down the stairs. There was no trauma to her skull, spine, or limbs only, the subtle, telling signs of suffocation. Bruising around her neck suggested the use of a soft object, deliberate enough to leave minimal marks, yet sufficient to end her life. The bathrobe, belt found in the home, belonging to Colin, became a central piece of evidence, symbolizing a chilling act of premeditated violence. Further investigation revealed the cold precision of his planning. Digital forensic analysis uncovered months of meticulous research, showing that Colin had studied the methods of murderers, focusing particularly on suffocation and staged crime scenes designed to mislead investigators. He had replicated these techniques with disturbing accuracy, covering Mary's body, manipulating the timeline, and creating the illusion of a tragic accident. Investigators were horrified to learn that he had doubled Mary's life insurance just before her death, turning what should have been an unimaginable tragedy into a calculated financial windfall. Even more disturbing were Colin's secret communications. Emails and online messages revealed an affair with a woman named Helen in England, ongoing while Mary was alive. Every aspect of the planned murder, deception, financial gain, and the pursuit of a new life was executed with deliberate, cold-blooded intent. Each digital footprint, every inconsistency in his account, and the mounting physical evidence painted a clear portrait of a man whose outward charm masked a meticulous, remorseless killer. Colin's duplicity was staggering, a terrifying reminder that evil can wear a friendly face. Colin's arrest on April 10, 2001, sent shockwaves through Mary's family and the local community. Charged with her murder, he was formally booked and released on bail under strict conditions. His passport surrendered, regular check-ins with authorities mandated, and strict limitations on his movements. To many, the sense of impending justice seemed assured. Yet Colin, ever the meticulous planner, had other designs. In March 2003, almost 2 years later, Colin disappeared without a trace. His car was found abandoned near a remote cliff, personal belongings left behind as if he had vanished into thin air. For a brief moment, authorities and the public feared the worst, suicide. But investigators suspected something far more sinister and calculated. Colin had meticulously orchestrated his escape, using the opportunity to vanish completely and reinvent himself. It took over a year for the truth to surface. In the summer of 2004, Spanish authorities in Mallorca recognized him working behind the bar of a local establishment. Colin had forged official documents, obtained a new identity, and was living with a woman entirely unaware of his criminal past. He continued his manipulative ways, charming those around him with the same practiced ease that had once masked his deadly intentions. Spanish authorities swiftly apprehended him, and after legal proceedings, he was extradited back to Ireland to finally face the consequences of his crimes. The escape had been audacious, but Colin's careful planning and overconfidence ultimately failed. Justice, delayed but not denied, was ready to confront the man who had orchestrated such a calculated betrayal, shattering the life of the woman he once vowed to love. In April 2005, after years of painstaking investigation, Colin finally faced the full weight of the law. In a courtroom heavy with tension and grief, he pleaded guilty to the murder of Mary Gough. There was no dramatic trial, no long-drawn legal battle, only the stark acknowledgement of his crimes. Life in prison became his inescapable reality. Today, Colin remains behind bars at Wheatfield Prison, serving a sentence without the possibility of early release. A constant reminder of the life he destroyed and the cold calculation that led him there. For Mary's family, the journey of grief has been unending. Every birthday, every anniversary, carries the weight of her absence. Her mother and brothers continue to mourn, their lives forever marked by betrayal, premeditated violence, and the heartbreak of a future stolen. Friends and neighbors remember Mary, not just for the tragedy that ended her life, but for the vibrant spirit, kindness, and resilience she displayed every day. She was a devoted daughter, a spirited young woman, and a partner who believed in love and trust, qualities that made her loss all the more profound. Mary Gough's story is a haunting reminder of how evil can mask itself behind charm and composure. It is a testament to the fragility of trust, the depths of human cruelty, and the enduring impact of loss on those left behind. Yet, it is also a story of courage and the quiet strength of those who survived the aftermath, carrying her memory forward. Her life, though tragically cut short, continues to resonate. A warning and a tribute, a legacy that insists we remember both her brilliance and the darkness that sought to destroy it.